The first two are subscriber stories, one describing a hellish work situation and the other about dealing with a crybaby and commenting on Copybeard from one of my previous videos. Okay, so as far as the story, just call me green. It's my favorite color, don't you know? So I've been working with Hitchkin Ladder for around 6 to 10 years, and this pain in the bum Neckbeard and Lazy Jet, who should call Lazybeard, has been there probably longer than I have, and he behaves like only he matters and comes off incapable of doing anything and behaves selfishly sometimes when he doesn't get his way. So here I am, working on the bathrooms, making them clean for my overlord and a cool manager who called Major Timmy. I just got the toilets looking great, the task was hellish, and here comes Lazybeard stomping in, disregarding my hard work, squeezes his big, fat man body into a stall, and I swore I heard the depths of hell open when he used the facilities. I think I heard Satan himself start crying when a loud butt burp flowed through the toilet. And when he left, he just said, "Clean it up." I told him to do it, and told Major Timmy about it. He agreed with me, and Lazybeard demanded that I clean up after his fat ass. Not gonna happen. He did calm down over the years to now, but he was in his terrible 34s? I once verbally stomped a person like Copybeard. He was a 34-year-old crybaby for the most part. If he didn't get his way, he threatened to physically harm the oppressor. I held a grudge with his simpleton for about 6 years, and I never really knew why he behaved like that, but the bastard is no longer a problem. He tried to steal some food from the vending machine from the last I heard, and while it was getting restocked, the managers tore into him for that and kicked his butt to the curb. TLDR, Cringy Legbeard is physically violent and genuinely believe fictional characters are real. Hello Reddit, I'm going to tell the complete story of the Legbeard Ripper. Going to try to do one post, so it'll be a little long. I previously wrote 2 shitty installments about Ripper, but they are not good and will be deleted shortly after this, so strap yourselves in, this will be a roller coaster. Names have been changed because I do not doubt our lovely Legbeard would try to murder me if she read this. I apologize for spelling errors and typos, but it's 2 a.m. and I am exhausted. Let's start by introducing some major players in the story. Zim, my best friend since kindergarten, shares my many interests with me, likes edgy memes, gore art, and is really good at drawing. Azure, she isn't too major, although she did witness some of the cringe firsthand. Generally polite and quiet. Stoner, very friendly, smoked pot daily, always had food, and was generally chill and unconcerned by everything around her. Pipsqueak, a short, entitled, and immature girl who blames all her problems on those around her. Soundwave, an absolute legend in our school. It's assumed he graduated, but I'm not certain. Skinny Neckbeard. Miss Piggy, a rude, brash, loud, and inconsiderate subordinate of Ripper. Mrs. Latin, super sweet old lady, our Latin teacher, very understanding and patient. Mrs. Art, our really cool art teacher. She likes me and Zim a lot, despite the fact that we draw dicks all class. Me, for the story, I'm going to call myself Grant. I am a trans male and neckbait at the time of this story, anime lover, video game enthusiast, and all a little cringy for the first bit of the story. I tend to see red flags in people right away. And our main contender, Ripper. We'll describe her very shortly. It was my first day of high school. As a cringy and somewhat socially inept prepubescent kid, Zim and my then boyfriend were the only friends I had, so I would take anyone who showed basic human decency as a friend. Latin was my first class of the day. This is when I first met Stoner and Azure. Mrs. Latin begins taking roll after the bell rings, and is almost done when the door creaks open. In walks our Lady Beard of the hour, Ripper. Ripper is about 150 pounds overweight, wearing a dirty Deadpool hoodie, ripped jeans, and a black butler backpack. Her hair is wiry and greasy looking, and her teeth are more yellow than an egg yolk. She plops herself down next to Stoner and I, desperate to make at least one new friend. I spoke to Ripper. Hey, cool backpack, I'm Grant. Oh, I love Black Butler. Sebastian's my favorite. My name is Ripper, by the way. We chat a bit for the first few days, since not much work is assigned. I get to talk to Azure and Stoner. At first, Ripper did not seem out of the ordinary. A little cringy, sure, but who was I to judge? For the first few days, all she talked about was creepypasta, droning on about how much she loves Slenderman and Jeff the Killer. I enjoyed it somewhat, as Sim interested me in it, but it was a little too much for me, and I eventually stopped listening. Ripper never paid attention in class, either always on her phone, sleeping, or trying to distract Stoner and I, yet she always seemed surprised when she got low scores on her papers. Azure and I offered to help, but she got defensive and declined. It's important to note that she was a junior when I was a freshman and had to take Latin 3 times. Fast forward a few weeks, Ripper comes in late as usual and smacks a wrinkled paper on my desk. It's a crudely made flyer for an anime club. My friends and I are starting an anime club. You should totally join. Fun fact, a semi-popular YouTuber went to my school and documented said anime club in a video he posted. Maybe I'll post a link. Naturally, I agreed, not wanting to be rude, and I was promised cake. I invited Zim to join me during lunch, and he agreed to go with me, so we arrived to the said room after school. Ripper, Pipsqueak, Miss Piggy, and Soundwave are all there. The meeting was mediocre at best. They played Naruto and handed out cake. At this point, Zim and I were done mingling, so we decided to chat quietly amongst ourselves in the back of the room. Our voices were no higher than whispers, but it was apparently unacceptable. Ripper and Miss Piggy both loudly shushed us, glared at us, and eventually yelled at us in front of everyone that we were being inconsiderate. Pipsqueak and Soundwave were talking much louder, and were not scolded by the like-year duo. Despite this repeated beratement for various petty things, Zim and I went to sad excuse of a club for the rest of the year before deciding it was too much, even for us. Fast forward a few weeks, and Undertale had taken the internet by storm. I had finished all the routes fairly quickly and talked to Azure and Stoner about it since they had questions. Ripper became curious and ended up diving headfirst into it after a day or so. Which was great at first. We talked about our favorite characters, dialogue, music, etc. Then Ripper escalated her interest in the game. She began showing me Stoner and Azure Undertale porn of Mettaton and Sans that she had saved off DeviantArt and Tumblr. All she talked about was how sexy Mettaton was. To this day, her Tumblr is filled with audio posts of Mettaton voice actors reading sexy lines. She was somewhat of a Nazi sympathizer, crediting her German heritage, even comparing herself to Germany from the anime Hetalia and claiming that she has to be proud of her bloodline. She also mentioned weird things about wars throughout history, but I did not pay mind to it because I really did not know much about it. She did say that the Vietnam War was not actually a war, which I even knew that it most certainly was. No one asked her for clarification during this time. Ripper grew increasingly violent towards me and Stoner. She once forced duct tape over Stoner's mouth and ripping it off, making the poor girl cry and run to the nurse. No matter how many times Mrs. Latin sent her to the office or had one or two talks with her, her behaviors never changed. I remember I was having a conversation with Ripper in the hall when I said something she did not like at all. Rather than use her words like any other normal human, she slapped me across the face so hard that I actually saw stars. "What the fuck, Ripper?" I said, putting a hand to my cheek and trying not to cry. Rather than give an apology, she giggled and said, "I actually feel bad for you." This is when I started to distance myself from Ripper, which did not really do much, as it was near impossible to drown her out. And if I'm being honest, I felt a little bad for Ripper. She frequently mentioned that her family was abusive, physically and verbally, so I could not distance myself a lot. The talk of creepypastas, Black Butler, and Undertale persisted. I should mention real quick that Ripper was not on the spectrum, which is important for what I am about to recount to you. One morning before school, Zim and I started to listen in on something Ripper was trying to say to Pipsqueak. "Oh my god, Pipsqueak, Sebastian came into my room last night," Ripper squealed. "That's great, Ripper, what happened?" "He came in, hugged me, and patted my head." "Oh, he loves you. I know, it sounds really unbelievable. Zim and I could not really believe it either and debated whether or not they seriously believed an anime character was real. Zim and I later found out from Ripper's Facebook, where she posts similar delusional statuses about Slenderman. I can only assume she genuinely believed these fictional characters were real. One day, while I was doing classwork, I overheard Ripper telling Azure about a vivid web dream she had involving Severus Snape. So, yeah. My freshman year came to an end, and I honestly did not think I would ever speak to Ripper again, but I'm not that lucky. Sophomore year starts, and for a month or so, I went without seeing Ripper. Then one morning, I see her, and she waves me over. "Gran, come check this out!" "What is it, Ripper?" She pulled down her stained t-shirt a bit to reveal a proxy symbol, haphazardly tattooed on her collarbone. At the unfortunate sight, I can only muster up, "Oh, that's cool." I quickly excused myself from the situation. Here and there for the rest of my sophomore year, I could see Ripper having fake anime fights with Pipsqueak and Soundwave, or wearing a disgusting Pooh Bear onesie that looked like it had not been washed once. The last notable encounter during sophomore year was when she screamed, "Hail Satan!" at some protesters that were outside the school for no apparent reason. Skipping ahead to junior year, I was under the assumption that Ripper had graduated, and I was happy to learn that Zim and I had art class together with Mrs. Art. We walked to class together, and as we open the door, we see it. That disgusting Pooh onesie. Ripper had been held back. Not that anyone was surprised. Zim and I did not talk to Ripper, but we did overhear some questionable things, most notably that Ripper bragged about wearing a bulletproof vest to school. She could have been bluffing, but it was a weird thing nonetheless. This came to a head one day during Silent Studio. Ripper had a moment. No one was talking, or was allowed to be on their phones, so very out of the blue, Ripper gets up, slams her chair into the table, and makes towards the door. "Ripper," Mrs. Art said with concern, "where are you going?" Ripper, glaring at Mrs. Art over his shoulder, simply grunted out, "Don't worry about it," before stomping off. The entire class stared at the door in disbelief, and Mrs. Art called security. I heard from friends that Ripper and other classes that these meltdowns were normal for Ripper. Luckily for everybody, Ripper finally graduated. Same with Soundwave. Pipsqueak is in my graduating class, unfortunately. Zim and I ended up finding Ripper's Instagram recently and found that she had gotten yet another Slenderman tattoo all up her arm. Zim joked that if Ripper ever read this, she'd hunt me down. I honestly do not doubt this. I also like to clarify that really I do not hate Ripper. I think her situation is a little unfortunate, and it excuses some of her actions. The physical violence, however, I will still find inexcusable. I really wish Ripper the best and hope that she leads a better life in the future. Thank you all for reading this long-ass story. Have a good night.